If you want to really take your business to the next level, you have to become a really good storyteller. Stories bring people into your world and want to work with you. But how do you put together a good story? How do you figure out how to tell the right stories? I'm going to break down exactly how to do that. Storytelling is one of the most powerful strategies for you to use to get people bought into your ideas, your beliefs, and ultimately working with you and being excited about working with you. If you can tell good stories, whether it's in your marketing materials, in your videos, in your podcasts, and obviously in speaking engagements, you can become way more influential. Now, if you're someone who never felt like you were that good at stories, or you're like, I'm not the greatest storyteller in the world, I want to show you exactly how you can move from being someone who thinks you're not good at it to actually becoming excellent at it. And let me be very clear. When I work with clients and they come in and they're like, hey, Arel, I want to get better at storytelling. I'm just not really good at it. And I show them a simple way to tell stories, you see their confidence increase. They see their ability to, oh my gosh, I just delivered an event and they told me it was the best event they ever attended. And a lot of it has to do with the right stories. So I want to give you some strategies on how to become a better storyteller so you can improve your business. So the first thing I want you to do is think about, okay, out of all the different kinds of ideas I can talk about, what are the most important ideas? So I was working with a client and I said, well, what's a really, really important idea to you? Now, this is someone who works with helping people get published in newspapers and magazines and periodicals, and he helps them do that. I was like, what's the most important idea? He was like, well, that they should really just start writing, and that they always start, poorly. But if you just start writing and get good at writing, then opportunities will present themselves. I said, okay, great. Hold on to this idea. This idea, for some reason, is important to you. Obviously, it's connected to his individual business. And then I said, I want you to think about a moment in your life, a story you can tell me where you decided to just start writing and it worked out really well for you. And he thought about it and he said, well, when he was in college, he actually had this great idea to write this article. And it wasn't, probably the most eloquently written article, but he was so excited about it that he wrote it. That article actually got picked up by one of his professors, he was in college, and then got submitted to a magazine and was printed in a national publication supporting this person's dream situation. And he was like, if I never wrote that article, regardless of how good or bad it was, I could have never submitted it to my professor for review. That professor, I had no idea, had connections to that national publication. And then my article got submitted in it. And then from there, that got him so excited about writing, he started writing more and more every day. So I go, okay, great. We have an incredible idea. And now we have an incredible story. And since the story is relevant and real to him, now all we have to do, and this is the key, I want you to focus now. I want you to paint a picture with your words about the story. So don't just say, oh, well, when I was in college, I wrote this article and I thought it was really cool. Turns out I got picked up by a national publication and then I started writing and became a published author and all that stuff. That tells the same point, but I want to paint a picture with my words. So I remember reading a book. I'm imagining if I was telling the story and I'm going to tell it as if I was that person, okay? So I remember staying up late at night, reading this really great book, Think and Grow Rich. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my goodness, this book holds the key. And I'm sitting there pumping my fists in the air, super excited. And I realized more young people need to start thinking this way, and they're not. So I decided, well, what could I do? And I wrote down why I think every person should believe these personal development, self-improvement ideas. And I remember opening up my computer and thinking, I'm going to write the most stupidest piece of material. But I said, you know what? I don't care what it sounds like. I just got to get the ideas out. And it was fascinating because I remember sitting there with this old computer. You remember those big desktop that weighed like 200 pounds? You could probably, greatly injure someone with it if you hit them with it. We didn't have the laptops like we do now. And I remember going in front of the computer, opening up a MS-DOS or whatever was the writing system back then, and typing out just what I genuinely felt in my heart, not analyzing it, not editing it, not criticizing it. And I remember when I hit the save button And the document was sent. I put in this black floppy disk. I don't know if anyone remembers those 3.5-inch floppy disks. And I put it in my computer and saved it. And then I went over to my professor and I knocked on his door. And I said, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I got really inspired by one of the books you asked us to read for class. And I wrote something about it. I know it's not part of class, but I was wondering if you could read it and give me your thoughts. I remember sliding that floppy disk slowly across the table to my professor, and the professor looking down and picking it up and shifting his glasses and saying, all right, I'll take a look. And I had no idea that in that moment when he said, I'll take a look, that he would be impressed with it. And then obviously we had to edit it, and he gave feedback, and we, fixed up the grammar and the writing a little bit. But that he had a friend who worked for a national publication, and that when he submitted that floppy disk to him, and then it got picked up, and the high that I felt and the pride that I felt, knowing that I wrote something that got published, and then I started getting requests for speaking engagements, and then actually inspired me to start my first business because I knew I could help people, and it all started because I just decided to write. Okay, I'm stepping out of character, right? So I embellished. That was so I embellished some of the details of that story. But what I did was I tried to paint a picture. I talked about the 3.5-inch floppy disk, and I set it, and I slid it into the computer and slid it to my professor, and the professor put their eye. So I'm painting a picture of a scenario that happened with my words. This is a simple but wildly effective way to become a better storyteller. You start with an idea, something that you want to share. Then you just look into your own life and say, where does this idea come to life? Where is an example of when this was real for me? So maybe you have a story about trusting your gut or putting in effort or whatever it might be that you're passionate about talking about. Then you ask yourself, what's the story in my life that exemplifies this idea? Then you come up with 1, 2, or 3 ideas, and then you just try to paint the picture with words, using descriptive detail, explaining where you were and what you were looking at and what you felt and what colors you saw and how old you were and all those kind of details, to simply paint a picture with your words. And now, my friend, you got a dope story that emphasizes the point that you want to make. And then what's beautiful about this is with the right ideas, you can create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, unlimited amount of stories that emphasize this idea. Because the odds are, if you have the idea, it's important to you. So you probably have that idea showing up multiple times in your life. Now you have these incredible stories that you can say with detail that lead you to a point. I once heard someone say that every point should have a story and every story should have a point. And I really like the way that was said. So you know the points that you want to say, and now you just look into your life, pull out examples of that, descriptively describe them with a lot of words to paint a picture, and now you become this excellent storyteller. You become this person that can deliver an incredible story because it's meaningful to you versus trying to make something up and see if it works. Now, if you want help coming up with the right ideas, because the points that you make are really important, because if you got bad points, it doesn't matter what the story is, it ain't going to take you nowhere. So if you'd love some help on how to come up with the right points for you to say, to position yourself as the leading expert in your field, and you want to figure out what are good stories for you to tell, and you want to help those stories get pulled out, and you want to get the best possible stories, I'd love to help you do just that. Hey, if you like that video, make sure you hit that like button before you go and hit the subscribe button so you can get more of our great content so it goes to the top of the algorithm. And if you head over to talkadot.com, not only will you get more in-depth resources there to help you with your speaking, but also you'll be able to get a free account for our amazing software tool that helps speakers like you pull leads from your speaking engagements, get data so you can actually have objectifiable information on why you're so good at what you do and how to use that data to book more speaking engagements. If you want to find out what Talkadot is, head over to talkadot.com. And remember, if you want to talk a lot, head over to Talkadot. See what I did there? Just go to the website. Trust me, it'll make more sense when you're there. I'll see you at the next video.